Hello, everyone. My name is Ester Kapa. I am a writer, poet, researcher, and a doctor of education. Today, we will discuss the Yemenite study room, and we will try to answer a few questions. The Yemenite study room. You can see here the map of Yemen, thanks to Mordechai Yitzhari. There were no structured schools for Jewish students in Yemen until 1943. Yet, we know that Yemenite Jews are among the more educated. So, where did they study? Where did the Jewish students study in Yemen? Usually, children were taught in a simple room on the ground floor near the synagogue. This room used for storage. They would spread straw mats across the clay floor. There were also some bricks or stones or small wooden benches on which the children placed the textbooks. How did the children study in Yemen? Each student brought his books from his home. Not everyone had books. Not everyone had books. So there were few books in the study room. The child who owned the book sat in the center with his book open in front of him, and the other children crowded around the book. This is how the Yemenite children got used to reading a book from different angles. At what age did the children start studying? And what did they learn? Every mother would bring each son to study at the age of 3 to get used to the atmosphere and discipline. By the age of 4, the Mori began to teach the order of the letters. After the child learned the order of the letters are taught in different combinations so that their shape is absorbed in his memory. Next, they learn each letter's form and role. Then they learned the names of the test of Te'amim or Te'amim. This allowed the children to chant according to the Yemenite reading tradition. They would train to reread on the 7 sections of the weekly Torah portion. In the Yemenite prayer hall, their young children read one section called Shishi. How many hours did they learn? The whole day was spent learning, except for an hour break when they went home for lunch. The boys then returned to the Mori to study until sunset. In the morning, they learned and memorized the weekly Torah portion, i.e. Parashat HaShavua, with Orklos translation into Aramaic. Each text they would practice with its own special tune, so that they can read the synagogue Torah scroll on Saturday without error. The synagogue's Torah scroll contains neither the marks nor the Te'amim signs. That's why it is so difficult to read. All boys had a chance to read in front of a minyan by the age of 5 approximately. Thus, the boys were all pros at the age of bar mitzvah. In the afternoon, they learned writing. In the early stage of learning, the Mori taught each child how to hold the quill and draw the letters. After the boy mastered basic writing, he bought a fine paper package and he copied himself a book. First, the Passover Haggadah, then a prayer book, then Diwan, a book of poems, then every book that parents or teachers advise. Why to copy a book? What is the benefit of this? When copying a book, 3 things are accomplished. The child learns to write neatly, earns a book, and the child knows well the book he wrote. Because with the writing, things are well remembered in his memory. Thus, thousands of manuscripts were written in Yemen. There was no printing press in Yemen until the 1950s. So, this was the means of building a library. What did the girls learn? The girls learned everything they needed to know from the mother. They were not expected to read or write, but rather do the housework and raise the family. Therefore, what is said here relates only to boys. What was the order of the study and how did they learn? Organized teachers had a regular learning order every day of the week for children aged 10 to 12. For example, Mori Nissim Mansoura taught a weekly Torah portion with the Onkelos translation in Aramaic and Tafsir Rasag in Arabic. One reads the verse with its tamim aloud, and everyone comes back together. Then reads the Onkelos translation, and everyone comes back. Then he reads the Tafsir Rasag, and everyone follows along out loud. The child sitting next to him calls the next verse in the same way, and so on. Verse after verse, child after child, until the week's portion is over. The Haftarah is studied with the Aramaic translation of Jonathan ben Uziel in the same way. In the afternoon, they would practice the weekly portion in pairs until they can read it in Torah script, i.e., Tikkun Sofrim, or Taj, without errors. On Monday, they learned prophets in the same way as they learned the weekly parsha. After every 4 verses, the Mori would stop and explains the words and the concepts. In the afternoon, they wrote for about 2 hours, copying the commentary of Maimonides in Arabic. At the end of the day, they learned Psalms together with a commentary. On Tuesday, they learned Mishnah with the interpretation of Bartenura and Maimonides. They wrote about an hour. Wednesday was a test day in reading the weekly Parsha. Anyone who would make a mistake would receive a few lashes on his hands at the Morris whip. The room, those who completed the exam sat in the corner of the room and wrote. Each page he completed was submitted to the Mori for review, who commented if necessary. In the afternoon, they learned Talmud. Thursday is devoted entirely to writing and sound studies, namely arithmetic. Diligent learners learned to read and write Arabic as well. Mori Nissi Mansoura taught the laws of slaughter to the advanced students. On Friday, they learned half a day. Some studied Talmud, some were writing, and those who failed the Wednesday exam repeated the affair. In the late evening, there were groups that studied astronomy as well as groups that studied the Talmud or Maimonides for about 2 hours, as written in Joshua chapter 8, verse 8. And you recited it day and night. Vahagita bo, yomam v'layla. In this picture, you can see a Jewish slaughter. And here, my recommendation for further reading. The first, מתימן לישראל, תרבות, לשון, ספרות וחינוך. From Yemen to Israel, culture, language, literature, and education. This book was published at 2011. The second, רבנית וחלה בשליחות המדינה, to the state mission, was published at 2015. צור משכני, Poems and Stories, was published at 2018. And זכוכית מגדלת, Magnifying Plus, Poems and Stories, was published in 2020. And now, if you please, copy the poem, זקני מולידי. Listen to the sound tune on YouTube. And here, you can see the translation to English. My old father, on my way to my old father, a young man passed, asking me, how does my father feel? Honor him, and yet fear. The man is elderly and hallowed. Please, please, put your hands on my head. I beg you, enlighten me. Open my luck. God bless you, son. And now, before moving to YouTube, I say you goodbye. God bless you, all of you. It was my pleasure to be with you. And I will be delighted to see your response on the Sanctum on YouTube. See you in the next lecture. Bye.